Okay, so this week we're finishing up our lesson plans, and you'll have two major final pieces. It's the assessment and the accommodation piece. So for the accommodation piece, you need to go back and you need to look at the specific instructions for the lesson plans. Each lesson plan is required to accommodate for a specific learning disability. Your best bet on that is to do some Google searches on accommodations, just because they vary so much. So if you Google accommodations for, let's say, ADHD or learning disability or intellectual disability, you'll find some of the things that you need, just because they vary so much depending on whatever you're going to be doing within your lesson plan, whether it be reading or math or whatever your third lesson plan is. But what I'm going to go over today is the assessment piece, because assessment and evaluation are different. Informal and formal assessments are also different. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and go into here. Okay, so to start with, assessment is a systematic collection. It's an ongoing process to collect data to inform your instruction. So it's these little pieces all along the way that you're collecting so that you can change up your instruction to better meet the needs of the learners and to make sure that they're understanding and learning the material. So that's a little bit different from evaluation, which is a one moment of time. So where assessment is kind of collecting data all along the way, and it can be very informal, meaning little self-checks that are happening all throughout the lesson. Those Q&A pieces that stop and let's do thumbs up, thumbs down, those are types of assessments. Where evaluation is this one moment of time, like a STAR test. It's a collection of one piece of data and looking at a measurement of the outcomes to the goals. So taking that criteria and saying, okay, now that the whole unit is complete, where did the students land? Another way to put it is this. So assessment is to increase the quality of your instruction. So every little thing that you do, you're checking to see if that plant or that flower is growing. But at the end, you're going to stand back and you're going to evaluate, or you're going to judge, how did they do? What did it turn out to be? So kind of like what I'm doing here is I'm assessing along the way with your lesson plans to see how you're doing, where I need to add instruction. But at the end, I'm going to evaluate you with your portfolio link at the end to see kind of where you've landed with some of that correctional piece. Here's just another way to say it. You can come back and review this assessment versus evaluation. So all in all, what am I having you do? I'm having you do assessment, not evaluation. And I want you to do a formative assessment versus a summative assessment inside of your lesson plans. So let's talk about what that's going to look like. A formative assessment is a process, not a test. Okay, so you're not doing a test for your assessment. It's going to be a process. So something process-wise would be maybe something you've put together for them, a Venn diagram, a graphic organizer, a couple of set of questions, maybe self-checks or exit tickets. And there's a link here that I'm going to provide you that will give you some more ideas. But again, it's to inform during instruction for immediate use. So you're going to stop and you're going to say, okay, what can I have them do so I can quickly determine whether or not they're understanding this material? And then, oh, they're not understanding, so let me kind of change it up and do it a little bit this way. Okay, so types of informal assessments or formative assessments, self-checks, so let's stop and let's check to see how you're doing. A quick reflection, hey, what do you think about this? So what have you learned so far? I say a paper and pencil test, but that can be more summative. It depends on what type of paper and pencil test you've done, and then self-critique of your work. Again, here's this link that you can go to that will provide more information. So here's a long list of examples of different types of formative assessments. I would strongly encourage you to go back to this to try to do the assessment piece inside of your lesson plan. Okay, so summative assessments is kind of a stop to say, not during instruction, but we're going to stop after instruction and we're going to make a go, no-go decision. So you've done all the instruction that you can, and now you're going to say, okay, do we move on from here or do we need to go ahead and reteach? And that's summative assessment. So those can be things like benchmarks, final exams, projects, portfolios, but it's just a demarcation of time to say instruction is complete, do we need to continue or do we not need to continue? So for your lesson plan, you will be doing an assessment that's going to inform your instruction. So it needs to be a formative assessment, not a project, not a portfolio, not an exam. but a formative assessment, something that's quick and immediate that you can administer to students that will check to see if they've understood your learning objective. So you need to go back to your learning objective that you created and create a formative assessment that will check to see if they've understood that learning objective. So that, again, can be a wide variety of things. You can use the internet as your resource or tool, or you can create something yourself. But inside that assessment box, you do need to tell me in a short description what you're doing. Don't just put worksheet or graphic organizer. If you're going to use a graphic organizer, tell me exactly what they're going to be doing in that graphic organizer. Or if they're going to be doing some sort of worksheet, then what exactly is the worksheet about? So you have to give me some description about that assessment piece in order for me to understand and be able to see if that lines up well with whatever your learning objective is. So I hope that helps a little bit in trying to decide what assessment piece or what I'm looking for in that assessment piece. Again, the accommodation piece, it's going to vary, but again, I'm going to need a description on this is how I'm accommodating. This is what they're doing differently than the other students in order to accommodate for their specific learning disability. So if you have questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing what you can put together.